Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the FRS Season 6. We're at the final round here, round 10 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and we are here with PC Division 4. Brazil has now hosted the FRS season finale in 4 of the 6 seasons, and here is the historic circuit itself. 4.3 kilometers around, 15 corners, 2 DRS zones, and definitely a good mixture between high speed in the first and third sectors, and then that infield section that is very much twisty back on itself. It's the shortest lap on the Season 6 calendar by distance, only outdone on time by Austria in this one. Now we'll take a look at the action zones. Of course, the Senna S's, turn 1, 2, and 3 is going to be your main overtaking opportunity down the long front straight that does have that big kink in it. But the DRS and Slipstream can give you some good overtaking opportunities. And then you head down to Descida del Lago. Turn 4 is at the end of that second DRS straight, just after, allows for a re-attack after the Senna S's. That's your next best overtaking opportunity. Otherwise, it's very much follow the leader in the middle sector. The soft, medium, and hard, as usual, are here with us. The medium 0.6 of a lap slower. The hard's 1.1 seconds slower per lap. The hards will do 34 of this 36-lap race. The medium's 26 laps. The softs only good for about 14. It does put a medium soft or a soft medium as a possible loadout, but you do get very much into the danger zone of tire wear if you push them that far. We'll take a look at the championship tables as the championship is indeed decided already. Space Ghost coming home with his championship in PC Division 4. Zhao moved up to third after that one. Stolen Valor not taking part in this race, nor is Zhao, so they are locked in. It'll be Renovatio with the biggest opportunity to move up and maybe take second place away. But we will join the cars as they head out on track and get ready for their first flying laps of this final race of the season. There's 9 drivers on the grid today. Ivory, Seriton, John Lemon, Cypher, Squids, Chronicle, Space Ghost, Renovatio, and Oba Mendez making up the cars working around. It does appear to be quite the sunny affair this time by. We are going to grab, I believe, Renovatio typically does his double warm-up laps. We'll jump on board with Oba Mendez, who is usually the first of the drivers to set a proper valid lap time. Down into the Senna S's, get the car rotated. Try not to be a foul of track limits in turn 2. It's so easy with that wide flat curb. Then out of turn 3, down to the Reta Pasta, which is going to be butchered, a Portuguese name in my horrible American accent. Oba Mendez purple in the first sector. Renovatio only setting a personal best as you would expect from a warm-up lap. But now into the middle sector, keeping the car glued to the inside as you run over the top of the hill. It gets very light. Right up to the inside curbing here in the middle sector, turn 6, 7. Short blast into this hairpin, tricky braking zone. The ground pretty uneven through there, and then on the throttle goes Oba Mendez. Based on his throttle inputs, it appears that traction control is indeed doing the work that is necessary, as is ABS. And invalid is the lap. Renovatio set the provisional fastest lap so far, as you would expect from the Mercedes driver. Goes to the 108.9s to start off. Seriton's going to be the next valid lap across here. We will see how he maneuvers. There's this left-hand kink. You have to keep it in bounds there. And away he goes. And yes, there is indeed an Alpine on the grid today. So we do have Seriton in there. And a rather unrepresentative lap time of 1:11.3. Still has plenty of time to find Ivory next across the line. Goes to the 1:10.2s. We'll grab Chronicle as they come down, and they are going to duck into the pit lane. John Lemon is going to hug the inside line. They're not quite as aggressively as we've seen some of the Division 1 and higher drivers doing. They go to a 1:10.19, so a good lap from them there. Squids is taking the Kimi Räikkönen line, or as he just pulls off the road there. Renovatio is going to be the next driver through that sector, and maybe Squids has some technical issues. That is why he's pulled way off the racing line. And no, Renovatio not going for his traditional double warm-up lap, has gone straight into the pit lane already. So we'll grab Space Ghost, who has invalidated their lap actually. So looks like they've got enough battery charged up for this one that we will go on with the lap for them. Of course, the game having that lovely Singapore livery on the McLaren, like the Vaporwave kind of aesthetic of it personally. It's a good one. It is indeed, yeah, good point, Yag. It is Oba Mendez's home race, a Brazilian on the grid here in Brazil. So thus far, the invalidated lap time not going to help him out in that regard, but with only 9 drivers on the grid, it's not a huge field to have to try and pick through if you want to try and make some moves up the field. So he's on an out lap to set a valid one, and we'll of course have to see what the weather has in store for us. But Space Ghost working through that long middle sector. Most tracks, the first, second, and third sectors relatively close on lap time. Not usually horrifically different. The first and third sectors, though, vastly shorter than the middle sector by time, as that McLaren is facing the wrong way. That is Squid's having a tough day of it so far. But yeah, very long, over 30 seconds of this just over 1 minute lap in qualifying trim is in the middle sector. Otherwise, it's only about 18 to 16 seconds, and Space Ghost does go provisionally P2, so sets a solid lap time. Surgeon on another lap. Just a couple of hundredths down from his previous best. It looks like, though, that rear light is flashing. He's still pressing on. His battery may be running low, has managed to get himself into the positive, or rather the negative, as he's gone a little bit quicker than his previous best time, but he's only a little bit. It doesn't look like he's got the battery quite left to press it across the line. He runs out. He does improve by a tenth, so he's found a little bit of time there. We'll stay with Oba Mendez, who is now on a flying lap here, looking to set a representative lap time on their first time around the Interlagos circuit here. 11 minutes left to go in this 18-minute qualifying session. And into the middle sector goes the Ferrari. The Ferrari has reverted back away from its 75th anniversary livery. I do very much miss that yellow Ferrari in big letters on the rear wing. I don't know if you guys do as well. I personally think it looked fantastic. And it's a little bit of a shame that's not there anymore. Oba Mendez, purple in the middle sector, actually. It's gone a little bit quicker than Renovatio so far. If he can have a good final sector, he may have an opportunity to take pole position, the provisional pole, away from the Mercedes driver, who has typically just hounded the poles. And across the line goes Oba Mendez, and it is indeed by 1 millisecond provisional pole position for the Ferrari. A tremendous lap from Oba Mendez there to put himself in. Oh, back end gets light at the top of the hill there, and Chronicle is around, and that is the one spot where if you can get the back end to stick, you can gain quite a lot of time, but it does run the risk of that rear end just lifting up in the air and getting a little wild. Ivory going to be next across the line. Starting up a flying lap here down into the Senna S's. And out of turn 3, headed towards the next best overtaking opportunity, Decido del Lago. Look for that access road. That's about your braking point. You see the rear wing slam shut on this downhill braking zone. Yellow flags as it looks like Saratin's going to dip out of the way of the hot and flying Mercedes. And Oba Mendez in a good spot here at the start of this qualifying session, showing good pace already, a 1:08.9. We should see the times dip just a little bit before the end of this one. We've seen rain in a couple of races so far this season, as Renovatio does retake provisional pole, goes to 1:08.4, so has found about a half a second and laid down the mark. Oba Mendez plenty of time to go out for another run. Ivory has found 3/10. That'll put him down into the 1:09.6 ballpark. He'll be around Space Ghost if he stays about where he is. Does have the opportunity to find a little bit of time in the final sector. Really only one actual corner, Junsao, the junction. And he does find about 3/10 and does, in fact, go just ahead of Space Ghost. Saratin into the pit lane they go. Looks like John Lemon is on a hot lap. No, he's on a warm-up lap here. So he is gearing up to go for that flying lap, does the Lemon. So DRS slams shut on the way into the tricky braking zone for turn 1. It's downhill, but you can brake quite late for it and get the car rotated into the corner. Now trying to shorten the line through turn 3. It's a kind of a mixed bag, whether you shorten the line or go a little bit wide on the exit to try and gain some momentum. John Lemon has found about a 10th off of his personal best in the first sector. Still needs to find about 0.4 of a second to get near where Space Ghost is on the lap time. So to fight with Space Ghost and Ivory Lightning, but as it stands, only 2 milliseconds separating the Mercedes and McLaren drivers in P3 and P4 for the second row of the grid. John Lemon working his way through the hairpin and then down this long left-hand sweeper. Tricky zone in the race. That rear right tire can get very hot. John Lemon's found a half a second, so provisionally he is looking closer to P3. If he can just get a good run out of Jun Sao, seems to be a good ride through there. And then hugging the left-hand side, shortening the line to the straight, and he does in fact go P3, a 109.2. So a little bit of time to get down into the 108s. Space Ghost has lost a little bit of time through the middle sector. It's about a 10th down and has indeed run a little bit wide and invalidated that lap. Oba Mendez furthest around the circuit on, or rather Chronicle is actually furthest around the circuit on the out lap. We will grab him and get ready to see. Cypher and Chronicle yet to set valid lap times. I don't believe I've seen Cypher out on track just yet. He's still sitting in the pit lane as it stands. Chronicle now starting the flying lap. We'll ride on board with the Aston Martin driver. Had the mistake at the top of the hill last time. We will see if he can keep it well within bounds and keeping it pointing the right direction. Looks to be a good run out of turn 3 there. We will see where he's at compared to the leaders. About 2/10 off of Renovatio in the first sector that time by. So he's got some time that he needs to find in this lap here in order to get up towards the top reaches. Although 2/10 off Renovatio still would be good enough for seconds. So we'll see if he's able to maintain some gap to Renovatio throughout the middle sector, or if he's going to continue to lose at a similar rate. We're putting about 6/10 off if he stays at that similar pace. But just about done with the second sector, keeping the car nice and steady through this downhill right-hander, crossing the sector split. Down about 6/10, so he's going to be close to Oba Mendez. Between Oba Mendez and John Lemon, Jun Sao seems to get a decent release off of there. Full throttle. Opening up the rear wing with that DRS and crossing the line, and does indeed go P4. So a 109.409 for them. We will grab, let's see who is next to cross the line. Probably going to be not Space Ghost, but Squids, who has found a second nearly through the first 2 sectors. Rear wing is open across the line. If they can find that second, they'll put themselves, 1.3 seconds up into provisional P5. Next across the line, it looks like that was Ivory. John Lemon has found some time through the first 2 sectors, 2/10, and should be enough to get near Oba Mendez. No, a little bit slow through the final sector as a hiccup decides to attack me. Apologies. But John Lemon stays provisional P3. Renovatio, a little bit of a wiggle. It looks like he might have been getting out of the way of a car, and he's hugging the inside. Can he find a little bit more time across the line? Does he extend that pole position margin? He does, a 108.3, and I don't know what that word was that came out. That sounded like it was supposed to be margin. Sarrington finds 2/10, but it's not enough to move his way up the grid. I believe Chronicle is on an in lap, so we will hang with them. I believe that is in lap for Squids. Ivory has invalidated his lap, so no improvements to be found for that Mercedes driver. I think just about everybody is on in laps or out laps, as I believe Oba Mendez is about to pull out of the pit lane. Needs to find about 7/10 of a second. Ivory finishing this lap. Interesting choice, even though he's invalidated. Goes to a 112.1. John Lemon not gearing up for another lap. He's making his way gradually through. Should pull into the pit lane. We'll stand by for Oba Mendez, who will be the furthest around the circuit. Unless Renovatio. Nope, Renovatio has not found any time there. Has Sarrington. No, he's 1 second off. So we will stick with the Ferrari of Oba Mendez, who attempts to secure pole position at his home Grand Prix. Does the Ferrari driver. He's sitting on the front row at the moment, which is a good place to be, don't get me wrong. But pole just has that little bit of a sweeter feeling. Now, the odd positions on the grid do start on the outside of turn 1, so you definitely need to get a good run, and there is the weirdness of the grid. The forward positions are on an uphill, and then it kind of sits in a bowl as the rear positions of the grid, although I think pretty much everybody with just 9 on the grid should be on the uphill slope. So it does make the getaway a little bit trickier. But through the center S is Oba Mendez for what I would assume is his final run of the session. I don't think there'll be quite enough time, 3 minutes, for him to finish this lap, do his in lap, do an out lap, and go for another flyer. Maybe close. Has found about 0.2 of a second in the first sector there. So if he can keep a similar margin of improvement, a rate of improvement, then he could potentially get himself back up to that provisional pole. Not using quite all the track into the entry of the second sector, but it is still a decent lap so far. We will see where he is, as it's an arduous wait for the second sector split. Usually you get pretty even spacing on the health check throughout the lap, but he crosses the second sector, and he's actually lost a little bit of time in that middle sector to his previous best. Only a 10.5 now of improvement has been found. Cypher is out on track and is going for a flying lap now, although it looks like he's had a spin in the middle sector there. So that will hurt him. Oba Mendez does improve by a 10th, goes into the 108.8s, but it is not going to be quite enough to secure pole position. Chronicle next to cross line, 109.409, as he's hard on the brakes into turn 1. Space Ghost, I believe, is on a fast lap as well as Seriton. I think Chronicle is just starting his fast lap, so we will find the Alpine driver. A little bit slower through the first sector than his previous best. Needs to find a little bit of time, and the rear light is flashing. So he has bailed out of this lap early. It is doable to do so. Space Ghost is, I believe, going rather pedestrianly as well. Doesn't appear to be on a full-out push lap, although we'll see where he is when he hits the second sector split. No, he is on a push lap, 0.2 improvement. The body language of the car didn't seem particularly all that aggressive, but now he's coming up towards the line. We can see, is he going to jump over his teammate Squids? Championship winner, the champion is the word I'm looking for. He does, in fact, go ahead of his teammate. Oba Mendez into the pit lane now, as is Cypher. Chronicle working his way on, has found 0.4 of a second on this lap. Oh, and there's a big crash from Cypher into the barriers. And it looks like he ghosted just as Chronicle arrived. Chronicle, though, going P3 and crossing the start-finish line. So he's managed to improve, and that is going to be a Red Bull on the track. It is going to take away that inside line that drivers really like to use. Hopefully that gets cleared relatively quickly. You saw a car in the Division R race, I believe it was, at Imola, where, or was it Division 2? It might have been Division 2, actually, where Stark had a spin and his disabled car at the end of qualifying cost people some lap time. But Ivory Lightning has found a little bit of time. Renovatio is looking to cross the start-finish line. Does he get across? He does indeed get across in time to start that flying lap. Space Ghost is invalidated and on an in-lap. Chronicle had that spin. So I believe Ivory is the only one on a fast lap right now. Well, John Lemon's a little bit further down the order at the moment. Or not down the order, but around the track. So we will grab John Lemon as he works his way through the final sector. We should get a bit of a checkup on Ivory here. 0.008 of a second of improvement. Not going to be enough to jump him up the order at all at this stage. Has to find about 0.2 in this final sector. Looks to be a decent run out of Junsao. Is he going to get a little bit of toe off of the Aston Martin? No, but he's at least got the inside line he can use. Crosses the line. Goes just about a 10th faster. And John Lemon, right as we catch him, has spun. So no improvements for John Lemon. Renovatio invalidating this lap time. So no further improvements. Space Ghost has found a couple hundredths of a second, or rather is down a couple hundredths in the middle sector. Rear light is now flashing, so I would assume he's backed out of that lap. And that is it for drivers that are on an actual hot lap. Cross the line goes Space Ghost. No improvements there. Loses about a 10.5 from his previous best lap time. And Renovatio takes pole position in the final race of the season. Oba Mendez in second. Chronicle third. John Lemon fourth. Space Ghost fifth. Squids sixth for the two McLarens to share a row Ivory Lightning 7th, Surgeon 8th, and Cypher only on the one attempt at a flying lap, then a retirement, and was out of the session. So the end of his day. He'll start from the back, however. Only 9 drivers on the grid today, so it should be a pretty decent chance to run up the order. So we'll hang out for a moment. And, the theme of the season, Renovatio has been probably one of the quicker drivers of the season, but has been struck by bad luck at multiple occasions. So a half a second pole position has not been unheard of from him, but he is not in the championship fight at this stage. It is done and dusted by Space Ghost. But Oba Mendez, Chronicle, John Lemon, Space Ghost Squids, Ivory Saracen, and Cypher make up your starting grid. So, the last race of this Saturday running on this last race weekend of FRS Season 6. We do have races still to do tomorrow, a championship to still be decided in Division 3 and PlayStation 1, although PlayStation 1 would take some serious acts of trouble to properly get it involved. And then you round out PC Division 2, which has always had great racing, even though the championship is fully decided at this point. The sun does appear to be out on the pit lane, so it looks like we may just have a non-weather affected race this time by. So we'll wait. It looks like drivers have readied up. I believe formation lap is off from the cross-play tests we did yesterday, so I'll switch us over nice and early. We won't have to listen to any David Croftyisms, and we will be able to just get right underway. So hold on to your seats. There is no little bit of formation lap warm-up to get your juices flowing. We are straight into the action. When we load in, the 5 red lights should be coming up right away. So 0 seconds. Everybody on the grid here. 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights are up, and out they go. And it looks to be a very good launch from Oba Mendez on the inside. Renovatio has fallen back. Now John Lemon up the inside. Renovatio starting on the hard tire, so that may be the difference between the starts. Oba Mendez covering the inside. Oh, a little bit of a tail swapper for Oba Mendez, but he's gotten away well. Squids has passed his teammate Space Ghost. Now John Lemon is down into 4th. Cypher well off the track. Must have caught some oversteer and had to rein it back in. Saracen working his way side by side with Ivory Lightning a little bit further as they do the Hamilton Verstappen. Soft tires on the Alpine of Saracen. So now that we're underway, hard tires on Renovatio, soft tires on Saracen, medium tires on everyone else. Oh, and around is Squids. There's been a spin. I don't know if he caught anybody. It looks like there may have been some contact. Cypher is around as well, but Saracen doing what he needs to do on those soft tires. Now up into 5th place at the start of this one. And we will catch up with Chronicle, who has moved into 3rd. Oba Mendez has gotten the start he needs into pole position, or from the second row or second place on the inside. Wow, my brain doesn't function currently, but Chronicle now putting up some pace, trying to chase down Renovatio. The Mercedes have typically had a design of straight line speed throughout this season. We will see if that is the case here around Brazil. Saracen and Space Ghost have had a little bit of a swapperoonie of positions. Very wide, though, and it looks like they've tangled on the exit. They're side by side. It looks like they've had a bit of sympathy. Oh, Saracen, reset to track. Saracen, reset to track. Saracen, you're beached. You need to hit reset to track. You're allowed to. You're allowed to reset to track. Has he done it? Okay, he's done it as his car is moving. Oh, thank God. Some people get disqualified from forgetting. We've had to reinstate some driver. I don't know if Saracen's... He's going again. This is the worst camera angle. I can't actually see him. There he goes. So unfortunate with the start he had on those soft tires, had moved his way up the grid quite nicely. But then the contact with Space Ghost, it would appear, I think it was Space Ghost, and it had turned them both sideways. It was a McLaren. And Renovatio now starting to put the pressure on Oba Mendez, who is in podium position at his home race for this season. It is a bit of a gap back to John Lemon, 1.7 seconds to P4, and then Space goes down 10 seconds off of Ivory Lightning. Oh, Renovatio, though, setting fastest lap of the race on those hard compound tires, so he is up to speed. The temperature is in those tires. And Saracen looks to have had another spin in the middle sector, as has Cypher. So a couple drivers struggling to keep the car pointed the right direction in this one. DRS enabled, And down the Pasta the first time into Cita del Lago. No move on for Renovatio. He's had that fastest lap of the race. Oba Mendez already has that rear light flashing on that Ferrari. So he has been burning quite a lot of battery to stay ahead in this one. Weather forecast looks to be sunny with just a little bit of clouds throughout the race. So basically, as it is now, should stay this way the rest of the race. Looks like Chronicle has had a bit of an off-circuit adventure through the middle part of the lap, and it looks like he's just rejoining the track now. But, the rear tire's hot, very hot, and that is another spin. We'll check back in with the fight for the lead, the only battle within a second so far of this race. And down into turn 1 we go. So, DRS open. It looks like Renovatio has gotten quite the run through Junsao down the inside of the Senna S's, keeping it nice and tidy. Ooh, a little swapper on the apex as the back end gets a little bit light. And it looks like he's actually might have backed out just a little bit to play the DRS game, because if you stay behind through the Senna S's, you will get DRS down into the Cita del Lago turn 4. And it looks like he might just have that move covered and now just has to try and make his way through. Chronicle into the pit lane. I wonder if he's got a front wing to change. No, he's just going to go ahead and get a new set of tires on. Unhappy with those mediums. And back to racing he goes. The battle's still very close up at the front. Oba Mendez and Renovatio. Looks like we have a timing tower glitch with Chronicle at the moment. It's not showing him his delta changing. I don't know what I just hit. Oh, I hit C. I don't want to hit that. There we go. Timing tower has repaired itself. He's come out just ahead of Cypher on the mediums. Seritin made a pit stop, doesn't make a pit stop, stays on those soft tires. And now John Lemon getting involved with the battle for the lead in DRS of the two leaders. Oba Mendez closing with that rear wing slot open. And now the podium positions, Renovatio, Oba Mendez, John Lemon. John Lemon picking up his first podium of the season last week out in Imola, and is now in position to potentially grab another one. 3.5 seconds to Ivory Lightning in fourth. Has a little bit of breathing space, but it is Division 4, and I mean, realistically, if a driver can stay out of making mistakes, you're on for a very good result. Yellow flags as that is Cypher around in the middle sector right before the start of Sector 3. And Squids is out. Squids has crashed, and that is him out of the session. It is a full safety car, so does help out Seritin and Chronicle, who can close up to the back of the pack. They should be able to both pit lane. No, Seritin has stayed out according to the track map, so not sure if that's the right move. The softs are already going to be starting to fall off, and well, we'll see if any of the lead pack decides to come into the pit lane this time. So nobody opting for the pit stops under the safety car. Chronicle the only one who's made that one pit stop so far. It is an area, as we saw in the pre-show, the hards can do 34 of the 36 lap race. It was an opportunity to slap on a set of the hards. Of course, Renovatio is going to stay out because he's already on the hard tires, but all of these medium tire runners could have put on the hards and gone to the end of the race. Seritin in the softs only has about 8 good laps of life left in those tires. So I don't know that it was a great plan to stay out for the Alpine driver. Still quite a bit of ground to go for the back of the pack to catch up. We will see. Does Seritin dip into the pit lane? Nope, they've stayed out on those softs once more. So Alpine strategy team in shambles. Golly, why don't you jump on the horn and tell him box, get off of those softs, because he's going to have to make a green flag stop in like 3 laps. Off of those soft compound tires. Renovatio kind of stuck with the hard tires as he's got them. He's got to push to at least about lap 16 or 14 to 16 before he can put the medium tires and have them actually reach the end of the race comfortably. So he's still got some work to do. Chronicle is starting to catch up the back of the pack, as is Seritin. Cypher into the pit lane. I think He's onto the hard tires, so those will go to the end of the race. He's got a fresh, I think a fresh front wing on as well. It's going to be very nip and tuck. He may not be on the lead lap, though, when he comes out of the pits. He's got to kind of hustle. I think he's just about got it. He's got to kind of push his way through the pit exit. Otherwise, he will be behind the safety car. Full throttle he needs to go, and it looks like he is just nipped out ahead of the safety car. So he manages to pit and stay on the lead lap. So good for Cypher. I doubt that they will wait for Cypher to catch up the pack before going back to green flag racing. They will likely wait for Chronicle and Seriton to get there. But I doubt with how far back Cypher is, the game will wait quite that long for him. But now that buffer that John Lemon had, the three and change seconds, is gone. So he's now got to try and run away with this lead pack once again and chase them down. Seriton's still on those soft tires. 14 laps the lifespan. Maybe we'll get another lap or so out of it in the safety car conditions. However, since he stayed out and since he was so far back, he's really not driving at safety car pace. He's pretty much driving at full race pace to try and catch up the pack. So he's not exactly saving those soft tires very much. I would almost treat them as green flag laps in this situation. But safety car is staying out, likely because Seriton has not yet caught the back of the pack. Cypher very slow through the first sector. Has he had another little off-track adventure? Maybe. He's actually lost time to the cars ahead on that hard compound tire. He can go to the end of the race. So everybody else does have to make a green flag pit stop. If Cypher can keep the car pointed in the right direction, seems to have at least decent enough lap times in green flag conditions to stay with it. But nope, Seriton now into the pits. So he is going to be able to box. I do not think that it will allow him to fully catch the safety car, though, this time. He's onto the mediums. Why the mediums? So I wanted him to box. But I wanted him to box for hards to go to the end of the race. The mediums, I think he's going to have to make another stop before the end of this one. Maybe if he goes maximum tire conservation, 24 plus 8, just about 36. He can just about get there. But he's going to have to do some tire saving to do it. We'll see if he is indeed going to be allowed to catch the pack up. It is still a decent margin for the pack to navigate through the middle portion of it. But we are down to just 8 runners. Anybody who finishes will score points today. It's usually right at about the second sector split that the safety car in this lap message will come. So we'll keep an eye out as they approach that. And I think Seriton is just about going to get onto the tail end of the train. Chronicle has disconnected, and now safety car is indeed in this lap. So Seriton's going to arrive at the back of the train with some pretty fresh, warm tires. He's got to be careful, as everybody will be going very slowly ahead of him as he catches up to them. And we'll keep an eye out and wait and see when Renovatio does decide to bolt. Holding up the pack has not gone yet as they fan out, and there he goes. Overtake on full throttle, and it looks like John Lemon has gotten a very good run. Actually has to lift out a little bit so he doesn't overtake Oba Mendez before the timing line. And into the first corner goes Space Ghost on Ivory Lightning. Had managed to pull aside quite nicely. Nearly got that move done. Seriton is looked to be side by side with Chronicle for a moment there. And has to try and make his way through. Yeah, I think it's possible. I did some testing in my running of going medium soft and soft medium. I did, though, have to typically, for full green flag running, have to take the softs about 12 laps in to go to the end. So mediums, I think Seriton's going to have to make another stop. At this point, he needs to try and work his way through the field with those fresher mediums and then box again for hope for another safety car. But out at the front, Renovatio controlling the pack, had to stay out on those hards. The mediums wouldn't really have been a viable option. John Lemon under pressure from Ivory Lightning. Seriton now working his way past, I think, the ghosted AI car of Chronicle, and just doesn't look to have the top end. Oh, he's touched the grass. Little mistake there, and that's Oba Mendez around. Oba Mendez has spun through turn one, and the hometown hero, and trying to make it a podium in his home race, has gone out of the top three positions. And that is going to really compromise his race. Looks to have kept it out of the barriers, so seems to be relatively safe. And now we'll jump ahead to Space Ghost, who is now trying to get into the podium positions. The Division 4 champion this season, now looking to work his way back up to the front rows of this one. He's played the gambling game quite a few times this season by running very long and getting the late safety cars that he's hoped for. Australia, a good example of that one, but has shown decent enough pace all around. I will say Renovatio, probably the fastest driver on track in Div 4, has not had the luck that he needs. That is yellow flags once again for Cypher. So as far as keeping the car pointed the right way, it's not doing the job for him. Now DRS is enabled. John Lemon has fallen off the back of Renovatio, so Renovatio is safe from any DRS attacks. But now this fight here, Ivory, Lemon, and Space Ghost, three drivers vying for two podium positions, and it looks like it's going to turn into a little bit of a train. Going to make it difficult. Now, Chronicle on the back of Seriton still looks to be under AI control, as evidenced by that slight ghosting. So Seriton really needs to push on these mediums, but he can't really push. He's got to try and stretch them out. Yeah, if the Xbox race had been dry, that would have been my strategy, would be to flex medium soft if it was like lap 1 to lap 3 safety car, and then go medium hard later safety car or green flag racing. That was kind of my idea, but it was full wet to enter the whole situation. There's a ghosted car there. I believe that's Cypher, who is a lap down the Red Bull. And is, that is, I thought for a second it might have been one of the front runners disconnecting, but blue flags are out for the Red Bull of Cypher. He's onto the grass, so I would assume, and he's not getting out of the way is the problem. Blue flags, you got to get out of the way. Seriton and Chronicle still swapping positions, so it looks like Seriton's struggling to run away from the AI-controlled car at this particular juncture. We'll grab Ivory and John Lemon. Space Ghost having to close back up to this pack because of that impediment of the Red Bull. But now that he's clear, should have a good enough run to catch up the pack, and very close is Ivory. John Lemon's got to try and find a little bit of pace here to at least try and get this pack to split away from Space Ghost. If they can at least get him outside DRS once or twice, they may have an opportunity to try and spread the gap, but looks like John Lemon having a little bit more downforce in the middle sector seems to extend the gap through the middle section of the lap. But then Ivory really clawing it back with the straight line. Looks to have run a little bit wide, and I think he's actually just fallen out of DRS of John Lemon because the detection point is after Jinsao. That rear wing is not open on the Mercedes. Space Ghost now closing up to the back of Ivory. Can he get on the brakes? Can he get close enough? That's great. I wanted to look backwards. While there's a car ahead. Absolutely. There we go. Now Ivory needs a very good run, has gotten a good run through turn 3, but DRS is open for Space Ghost. He's closing up, but it looks like he's not going to be quite enough to catch up. Ivory has made up a little bit of ground on the straights, but the middle of the sector has proven to be John Lemon's strength so far in this session. Battery running very low on that Alfa Romeo. You could see just in the shot for a second that rear light flashing. So he's got to try and make up a little bit of ground, and I think Ivory's going to be pushing quite hard this time to try and get back in that DRS. It's hovering right at that 1 second mark. 8 tenths now. It looks like Ivory's made up the ground he needs. Can John Lemon get the exit he needs out of Jinsao? 7 tenths of the gap. And he's made up a little bit of time to Space Ghost has Ivory. So it looks like Ivory is going to get just back inside the DRS of John Lemon this time or by, and will have that defensive help he needs off of Space Ghost. So DRS does indeed flip open for the Mercedes, even though they fell just outside that 1 second margin. Lap 14. And pit window is essentially open for the hard compound tire already. I would expect most medium tire runners to take it to lap 15 or 16 before swapping onto the hard compound tires. Renovatio, you should see probably run to about lap 20 to 22 on his hards. Defensive goes John Lemon into turn 4. Ivory very close that time into Descida del Lago, but not getting the move done. And he's going to have to tuck right back in. And John Lemon really having to work hard for that podium position. It's basically these three fighting for those 2 podium positions. Chronicle 6 seconds off the back has at least cleared Seritin. Although, it's important to note, Chronicle is on a set of hard tires that can go to the end of this race. So he can get to the end of this one if he stays out on the hard. So all the other drivers ahead of him do have to make a pit stop in this one. So he will, at this point, inherit the lead. Pit loss is roughly 21 seconds from when you enter the pit lane. You do shorten the exit a little bit. It is, there is some margin as the pit exit is so long. And into the pits does come Ivory Lightning. Looks like he's made a little bit of contact with the wall, and it's not the cleanest pit entry we've seen. So he definitely gave it some time. Probably going to be closer to 22 to 23 seconds. We will see. He is onto the hard compound tire. John Lemon has lost a bit of time to Space Ghost, and it looks like Space Ghost just has the pace. John Lemon defending. Oh, Space Ghost around the outside. He's gotten forced wide, and around he goes. I don't know. I think that was a bit of a late maneuver defensively from John Lemon. Kind of committed to the inside and swung back to the outside. And I think that may be some time penalties for the fan favorite, as Space Ghost did pull alongside under braking, but had to take to the grass to avoid a bigger incident. And then as he ran across the runoff, spun round. So not ideal for John Lemon in that one. And now Space Ghost has some work to do. We'll see what Ivory is able to do compared to the group ahead of him. 26 seconds off the leader, 4 seconds the gap to John Lemon. So it is going to be right on about 22 seconds. We will see if the Lemon does come to the pit lanes. He does. Looks to be a more aggressive entry than what Ivory Lightning had. And I wonder, if I was John Lemon, I'd probably self-serve a 5-second penalty coming in right here. We'll keep an eye. Tires on, tires off, and away he goes. So he is going to let it go to the steward's room if it gets reported. Of course, it is up to Space Ghost whether to report that or not. At least from my point of view as somebody who works in the division, the steward team that stewards this division, probably not a legal move from the Lemon. And it looks like Ivory has just about undercut John Lemon this time by. So he's managed to get ahead. Has gone that one lap earlier on the hards, and John Lemon is going to have some work to do in this middle sector to get those tires switched on. Those hard tires come out of the box pretty cold, and it does take some serious work to get those up to temperature. If John Lemon can stay within DRS, it would be a huge win for him, although it seems like he may just about be falling out of that margin. Now, Chronicle has shuffled up to second place behind Renovatio on those hard compound tires. We'll have about a 10-second margin to Renovatio when he comes out behind. And if he can stretch those tires to the end of the race and keep them in good nick, then could be a potential podium for Chronicle. I believe the tire differential of Renovatio on mediums compared to Chronicle on old hards may be too much. I think 10 seconds will be plenty for Renovatio to eat into. Oba Mendez now looking to make a move on Seritin. Doesn't quite get it done into Descida del Lago that time, so he will stay right up the gearbox. It is the closest battle on track. We'll see if he can manage his way through the middle sector as the Alpine sitting in P4, though we are anticipating that Alpine and Ferrari both are going to have to make pit stops, as does Space Ghost. Renovatio still has to make a pit stop, not by tire life, but just by rule. He has to run 2 dry compounds. So he will likely come in around lap 20 to 22 to get off of the hards, go onto the mediums, and finish up the race from there. He is still gaining time on Chronicle. So every second he makes up now is one less second he has to close down. And it looks like Oba Mendez might have gotten the release he needs on Seritin out of Junsao. And Seriton into the pit lane, so it will be a free release for Oba Mendez. Doesn't have to make the overtake happen. And Seriton, I would assume, is going to go onto the hard compounds now. I feel like at this point he's had kind of committed. He could have taken the mediums much, much longer. He is onto the hards. So we'll go to the end of the race. No time penalties for anyone just yet, as Space Ghost is starting to claw his way back to Chronicle, though he is on those medium tires. We do think he is in the pit window, but he may be doing Space Ghost things and running long and hoping for that late safety car, as he's done several times over the course of the season. And right as I say, no time penalties yet, there is our first track limits time penalty. Cypher running wide of the track limits 3 times, picks up a 3-second time penalty, although last man running and a lap down isn't going to hurt him that much. However, still P8, so if you can get it, these remaining 17, 18 laps to the end, he will score a solid 4 points just by virtue of keeping the car driving and out of the barriers. It looks like John Lemon has just about got those tires switched on now. He's at close to the 1 second margin, but not quite in there. Oba Mendez is into the pit lane. So we'll check the tires for him. He should be going on to the hards as well. Space Ghost still on the track. Now the question is Chronicle under AI control? Because if he is under AI control to the rest of this one, he will be listed as a DSC and everybody will move up 1 place. If it is just ghosting because of connection, he is all right. And also, if he's under AI control, it will make another pit stop for him for sure. But Oba Mendez comes out clear of Seriton on those hard compound tires. We will catch up with the Ferrari driver. Has about 2 seconds to the car behind, though. He does have to get those tires warmed up and into the window. He should lose probably a couple of tenths through this middle sector as those tires get dialed up to temperature. But looks like Seriton losing a bit of ground this time through the middle sector. John Lemon has gotten inside the DRS range of Ivory this time, so we should see that rear wing flip open. That pace is there in the Alfa Romeo. Rear wing swings open as they head down the pit straight. He's going to find a couple of tenths down the straight, but it isn't going to be enough to put him in position to attack as it slams closed. And he navigates the Senna S's this time. Hard on the throttle he goes. He's gotten a very good exit from turn 3. I don't think it'll be quite enough to make a move down into turn 4, but it will put him in a position to really have himself living large in the mirrors of that Mercedes. Ivory's run a little bit wide there. That might be a track limits warning for the Mercedes. And now John Lemon catching very much up to the back of Ivory Lightning, as what we expect is going to be one of the net podium places in the end of this one. Space Ghost making his way up towards Chronicle. Renovatio still yet to pit, as has Space Ghost. So the longer that they go, the more they hope for a safety car. Now, Renovatio is on the correct tire to do the hope for a safety car strategy. The hards can do basically the entire race distance. And at this point, Renovatio only needs to push it about another 3 laps. And then he will be inside the pit window, or not pit window. He will be in the soft compound margin of the cars ahead, soft compound margin to get to the end of the race. Space Ghost still trying to work his way past Chronicle. He isn't trying to drive through the car. Cypher came into the pit lane for some softs, so he is going to be well down. And if he's not careful, he may end up before the end of this race outside of the 90% classification distance. I believe he is now just about 2 laps down to the... no, he's just 1 lap down so far. 1 minute 11.6. No, he's 2 laps. I don't know. I can't tell. It doesn't usually tell me how many laps. Squids, even though he's DNF'd, is left and rejoined. Renovatio and Space Ghost still the only 2 drivers yet to make a stop in this one. Space Ghost is going to be starting to feel the pain a little bit on those medium tires. If he's going to go the medium soft, he could box this lap, and it should work. Lap 23 next lap. But John Lemon still putting the pressure on Ivory Lightning up ahead of him. Not quite close enough to make any kind of attacking maneuver just yet. But Ivory picks up 3 seconds. 3-second time penalty for Ivory. Space Ghost has made his way past Chronicle, and now John Lemon doesn't even need to take Ivory on track if he can stay in the wheel tracks. The 3-second time penalty completely unforced from Ivory, and there's yellow flags, and I believe that is the blue flags of Cypher getting out of the way as both Chronicle and Space Ghost work their way through the middle sector. Chronicle's car still staying quite with the McLaren up ahead. There may be an overtaking opportunity down into turn 1. And we will jump on board as it does look like Chronicle's Aston Martin has a bit of a run on Space Ghost down the front straight. So rear wing flips open on the Aston, closing. It looks like it's not quite enough though. So we will check in with the other battle on track. DRS flips open for John Lemon. 1/2 second the margin, and Space Ghost has defended his position at least through the first part. John Lemon getting closer to Ivory than he has before. In the last couple of laps, can he get the run he needs? And that is Cypher is around. See where these guys see him. He's in the inside barriers, front wing missing. A little bit of debris on the inside of the track, but it's off the racing line. It appears that there will not be any kind of safety car, virtual or otherwise, called for this one. But we are 23 of 36 laps into this race. The two front runners, Renovatio and Space Ghost, still yet to make a pit stop in this one. And realistically, based on where Ivory is compared to Renovatio and Space Ghost, or at least Renovatio could have essentially a free pit stop and not even have to chance the safety car. He will come out ahead of Ivory, and then Space Ghost would still have to make a pit stop as well. So I would assume and recommend that Renovatio makes his pit stop rather soon. Space Ghost is still holding out for that safety car, and within another lap or so, as those mediums just are going to completely die off, Renovatio will have the free pit stop to Space Ghost as well. And even a safety car would not harm Renovatio, because at this point, Space Ghost is having trouble holding off the AI car of Chronicle with his tires so done. Cypher has pulled into the pit lane and retired, so unfortunate to see, as all he had to do was drive to the finish and would have scored points. To see a manual retirement is a little disappointing, but it is what it is. John Lemon very much up the gearbox of Ivory this time, but it's very tough to follow through this middle sector, and if you can make just about enough space through this middle sector, you can have about the margin you need for the front straight. Renovatio sets a fastest lap of the race. He's laying the hammer down and showing that he has no need to worry about anything. There will be yellow flags as Cypher's car pulls to retire. Unfortunately, the first spot to retire out of the pit lanes is all the way down at turn 4, so you tend to have a relatively slow car going down towards Descida del Lago and then across the track. But now 21 seconds the margin to Space Ghost. It is a free pit stop for Renovatio. I would recommend he comes in, boxes, gets onto the soft compound tires, and goes to the end of this race. As a Mercedes driver, that is what I would suggest is the smart maneuver, because he will come out now essentially ahead of Space Ghost and will have fresh soft tires. Maybe one more push lap, but 10 laps on the softs, plenty able to do. Oba Mendez in 6th has had a tough day, to say the least, but this point now, Space Ghost is really just hoping for a safety car. He needs it to stay ahead of Ivory and John Lemon's battle, and I think we may see those medium tires puncture relatively soon. Don't want to commentators curse it, but it is what it is. And that is a lot of laps to be doing on the medium compound tire, unfortunately. Chronicle once again goes through, takes away the position. And now it's 23 seconds for Renovatio. A completely free pit stop. Easily into the pits and out ahead of Space Ghost. And John Lemon once again gearing up to try and make a move. on Ivory, but just isn't quite able to get the move to come off. That 3-second time penalty, though, will help him out at the end of this one. 10 laps left to go in the final race of the season. Can he make a maneuver? It sounds like a big lift and coast down into there. Looks to have plus fuel on the dash, so I think he's all right and not needing to do any fuel saving. At least from that quick view we saw the steering wheel. I think that was plus 0.2. And that should be plenty to get to the end of this race. Renovatio stays out once again, so there's no harm in him staying out as long as he does, unless the cars behind start to eat into that gap. And now Space Ghost has lost quite a bit of time to Chronicle. I think those mediums are absolutely toasted. And at this point, he's just got to take his medicine, I think, and come in and get off those tires. Otherwise, it is going to be a puncture, and he is into the pit lane. Renovatio should come in next lap. There is nothing that can harm him now, but John Lemon has the run on Ivory, goes to the outside. He's going to pull alongside under braking. Side by side, they go into turn one. That is going to give the inside line to Ivory, and John Lemon just kind of backed out of it a little bit, maybe getting ready to gear up for a run down the road. Pasta down into the Cita del Lago. Looks like he's got the run out of turn three. DRS open. Can he get to the inside under braking side by side? Not quite there as he sweeps across. Oba Mendez has made his way past Space Ghost and is up into 5th place. And now there's a lot of work for Space Ghost to do to get up towards those top points paying positions. John Lemon, probably his best overtaking opportunity of the day, and into the pit lane does come Renovatio. Nice and easy onto a set of soft tires. Space Ghost on the soft tires as well has got to make his move past Renovatio and then chase down this battle between Owen Mendez and John Lemon. I believe Chronicle is still under AI control. I'm not sure. But he's got the Renovatio has the free pit stop by quite a margin. So he will pull out on those soft tires, and away he goes back onto the racing line, and just needs to not make any kind of mistake, and he's got quite the margin for a race victory in hand. Space Ghost starting to gear up to starting to catch Oba Mendez. Has gotten a bit of a run, not quite in the DRS range down into turn one, but will have it through into Desida del Lago this time by, so we will catch up. Oba Mendez, though, picking up track limits penalty that time. Space Ghost 1 second back. DRS flips open, and he will close up. Now, the tire differential that he has to Oba Mendez will give him an opportunity to potentially make an overtake through the middle sector. 9-lap-old hards versus brand new 1-lap-old softs, so he should be able to have quite the easy time, even if he attempts to attack in the middle sector. He'll have a lot of extra grip, unless Oba Mendez is carrying lots and lots more downforce. So we'll just have to wait and see. It doesn't look like Space Ghost is in any kind of rush. I think with 12 seconds the margin up to John Lemon after that. It is quite the margin he's going to have to recover up to the lead. But we'll jump back into this battle that's been ongoing throughout the entire race. John Lemon and Ivory. John Lemon still with the DRS. Ivory still with the 3-second time penalty. So nothing going there. Space Ghost, a good launch off of Junsao. And it looks like with the DRS, he has easily snuck his way past and should have no big issue pulling away now at this stage, even with the DRS that Oba Mendez will have behind. It's about a half a second the margin. And it should be job done for Space Ghost. Now 12.5 seconds to find to get up to John Lemon this time. And that is going to be a tough ask of the driver. We'll jump up to Renovatio, who I would expect is probably going to set the fastest lap of the race this time by. Has to do an 11.4. Should be somewhere easily in the 10s with the light fuel load and the fresh soft tires. And crossing the line, indeed, 10.3. So a comfortable margin, quicker than anyone else out on track. Only 7 laps left to go in this one, lap 30 to 36. The job to be done. Ivory unable to pull out of DRS of John Lemon. Needs to make 3 seconds to negate that time penalty, though. It may be looking at 2 podium sitters at the moment. Now the question is, what kind of lap times is John Lemon doing compared to Space Ghost? So We'll keep the lap timer open. John Lemon about even with his previous best lap times. Not a lot of time fall off on the hard compounds. And once he crosses the start-finish line, we will see if he's got what his lap time is on the last lap. And then we'll drop back 10 seconds later and find out what Space Ghost is lapping at, because we can do a little bit of mental math and see if Space Ghost is indeed going to catch us. Because even if Space Ghost does just catch up this pack and doesn't overtake either of them, if he's on the gearbox of John Lemon, he's likely going to take away the position from Ivory as well, because 3 seconds is that time penalty. Renovatio setting another fast lap of the race, nearly going to the 109s, 110.017. So very quick laps. Doesn't even need to be driving particularly quick laps, honestly. Just needs to be hustling his way around and driving safely, because he is going to open up the margin. So cross line, 112.3 is John Lemon's lap time, and Space Ghost will be next to cross the line, doing essentially quali lap after quali lap. So 12.3 to a 10.6. So what is that? 1.7 seconds the margin. 1.7 per lap. 5 laps times 1.7, let's call it 2, will be 10 seconds. Let me grab my phone. 1.7 times 2. No, 1.7 times 5. 8.5 seconds. So at the current rate, Space Ghost will not quite catch John Lemon. And that's also not taking into account the fact that those soft tires will degrade and fall off and start to lose some pace towards the end of this race. It is a tricky one. But Renovatio comfortably in the lead of this race. John Lemon just kind of hanging behind Ivory Lightning. I would guess instead of fighting down into turn 1 and turn 4, maybe just quite content to sit in the DRS, be pulled along, and hope for the best. He just needs to be watching that time gap to Space Ghost. That's the only real time concern. 12.6 that lap for John Lemon. Space Ghost going to cross the line here. 11.1. So you can see already back into the 11s. So now that was a 1.5 second gain. And John Lemon, as I was saying, might be sitting back. Nope, to the inside of Ivory Lightning into turn 4. Side by side they go. It looks like he's got the drive that he needs on Ivory, but now will he be able to make the moves he needs in the middle sector to drive away from Ivory, or is he just going to be sitting and giving DRS right back to the Mercedes driver behind him? Chronicle has finally reconnected, and his AI is still out on the track, so props to him. Sarrington into the pit lane, well off the back of Oba Mendez. Actually, not a bad choice. Could go onto a fresh set of softs and go to the try and go for the fastest lap point. P7 will still score him a solid 6 points, and then a fastest lap could gain him another bonus point. But we'll stay with this fight here. John Lemon and Ivory. It looks like John Lemon's just about got the legs, but Ivory, look at that straight line speed of the Mercedes, as he eats nearly 3/10 out of the gap down into turn 1. Oh, and a big swapper for Ivory. He's looks to have kept it out of the barriers, but he's spun around. He's on the track. He's got to try and stop as Space Ghost comes through, but easy on the throttle there, buddy. Got to be gentle with that right foot with those hot rear tires, but a mistake down into turn 1. John Lemon now away, and the gap is 6.7 seconds for Space Ghost to catch. Chronicle likely, with the amount of time that he was DSC'd from the race, still likely will not be classified in this one. Just because the AI drove such a margin of it. It will likely go down to the steward's decisions. He may get last runner classification, I think would be the compromise he might get. But he's still out, 29 lap old hards, only 2 laps left to go in this one. Luckily, he's connected before the AI has done its usual, oh my god, I need to get off the tires type deal. But now, Oba Mendez and Ivory Lightning, the closest battle on track. I believe they're both carrying, yes, 3 seconds worth of time penalties. So it is for position, this battle between the two of them. Now Oba Mendez trying to get into the top 5 for his home race. Move that lap timer. It looks like both drivers have actually had pretty good straight line speed over the course of this one. from a potential podium position now. Ivory fighting for the 5th place finish after that spin in turn 1. Just didn't quite get the rear end settled that time and manages to hold position ahead of Oba Mendez. Oba Mendez looks to have a bit of dirt on the car. May have had some extra off-track adventures as the car does get dirtied up for that. John Lemon 1.3 seconds off of Chronicle now. 1.2, 1.1. It's getting very close between John Lemon, who's got those much fresher hard tires. Does not have DRS yet on the Aston Martin, but will likely be in a position to attack. And Oba Mendez is very much in a position to attack on Ivory this time by. Will have plenty of DRS. Rear wing flips open as they hug now, crossing the start-finish line in the slipstream. Does he go inside, outside? He's going to the outside. Can he pull alongside under braking? Not quite. And Ivory just delays the turn in. Decent racecraft between the two to make his opponent unsettled, as Oba Mendez was not alongside enough to be warranted that space. And down into the Cida del Lago they go. Turn 4. No move done for Oba Mendez. John Lemon has closed up to the DRS range of Chronicle up ahead. So the tire differential proving to come into play here. But Seritan, the car a lap down, is just ahead of John Lemon. He will stay. It looks like that may have cost him just a hesitation through the middle sector. So no time really to be gained that time by. Has gotten a good release off of Junsao as Seritan goes quite wide. He's going to snag DRS, does Seritan. He may be in a position to maybe go for fastest lap there. I think he may get himself into a little bit of a spot of bother. We'll jump back to this front pack as Oba Mendez not quite close enough to actually attack. But he may have just too much grip in the middle sector and be kind of impeded by the cars on the lead lap as he tries to set the fastest lap of the race. John Lemon still in the DRS range. It is the final lap of this race. So it is the last opportunity for Seritan to really go for it. This is the last opportunity for John Lemon to overtake Chronicle. Chronicle, of course, stayed out on those hards, made the pit stop strategy work, but crossing the line to win the Brazilian Grand Prix and the season finale is Renovatio. Takes that final race win of the season. Now the battle for second. John Lemon and Chronicle split by just a couple of tenths. Seritan is actually going to have DRS on this group, but what that means is that he's not going to have it. John Lemon's gotten a tremendous run off of Junsao. DRS is going to open. It's going to be a drag race to the line. Looks like he's got the nose ahead. John Lemon is just going to snag P2 away from Chronicle. Just under a tenth of a second between the two. What a finish. Space Ghost comes home fourth. Ivory Lightning is going to hold off Oba Mendez to the end of this one, just ahead of the Ferrari, and Seritan comes home as well. What a drag race. Images of Brazil 2019 between Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly. That drag race for P2. What a finish between the two. It was pretty much pedestrian for Renovatio out in the front. But John Lemon getting the release he needed off of Junsao, able to come home with a second consecutive podium for John Lemon. What a finish there. It was a pretty pedestrian race. Everything spread out quite a bit. Only the one safety car, but the Lemon making it happen as they crossed the start-finish line. A tremendous effort from them. A tremendous effort from all of our Division 4 drivers. Big thanks to all of you over the course of this entire season. I know sometimes the fields got a little thin, but the racing was always exciting. And it was fantastic to finish off. What a drag race to have at the very, very end. Yeah, thank you for joining me, of course, all this season for the Division 4 action. Renovatio taking his spot at the top of the podium and takes home the fastest lap of the race as well. So gives a very good good result. The champion comes home just outside of the podium places, P4, as Mercedes makes it a 1-5 today. Oba Mendez His home race comes home 6th, Seriton 7th. And Cypher and Squid's the only retirements in that one. But was a lovely time. Of course, season for Division 4 is done. The full season not quite finished. Still a few races left to go tomorrow to wrap up fully season 6. So we do have a championship decider for PC Division 3 on the cards. And also PlayStation Division 1. Those are going off at the same time. 7 p.m. UTC on FRS Community and FRS Motorsports. And then PC Division 2, while the championship has been decided there, still has been fantastic racing all season at that division. And that will be the official season wrap-up, or at least of races, in season 6. So that will go off right after the first races tomorrow, roughly around 8:30 p.m. UTC. But thank you guys so much for joining me once again. I'll catch you guys tomorrow on the PC Division 2 cast. Make sure you guys tune in for the other casts as well. There are championships still to be decided in the finales, but I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.